I remember the night my life shattered into pieces. I was sitting alone in my dimly lit living room, the smell of incense still heavy in the air, when I realized that everything inside me was empty. For years, I had hidden behind rituals, spells, and the false power of darkness. But that night, the weight of shame and despair pressed against my chest so hard that I could barely breathe. My hands trembled as I held a candle, watching the flame flicker, knowing deep down I was playing with something that was killing my soul. I thought I had control, but the truth was, I was being controlled. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. God felt a million miles away, if he even existed at all. And yet, little did I know, that very night, the gates of hell would open before me and everything I thought I knew would burn away. Before I continue, let me pause for a moment to thank you for being here. To all my subscribers, I am so deeply grateful for your support. And to all the new viewers and those who are watching but have not subscribed yet, thank you for giving me a chance to share my story with you. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because every single click, like, and comment is the fuel that keeps this channel alive and burning with purpose. So please, join the family, share your thoughts in the comments, and let us walk through this story together. My name is Sally. I am from Vermont, and I am in my early 40s now, but the story I am telling you began years ago, in 2006. Back then, I was not the woman you see today. I was broken, angry, and searching for something to fill the void inside me. I had grown up around church, but faith never sunk deep into my heart. Instead, bitterness grew there. My father abandoned my family when I was a teenager, and my mother worked herself sick just to keep food on the table. I felt invisible, forgotten, and unloved. By the time I was in my 20s, I wanted nothing to do with God. Christians felt like hypocrites to me, and the church felt like a place full of empty promises. But I was hungry for answers, desperate for meaning. That was when I met a group of people who introduced me to witchcraft and the occult. They told me that the world was filled with hidden power, that spirits could be called, and that destiny could be controlled. For the first time in my life, I felt powerful. I felt seen. I began to dive deeper into rituals, spells, and things I now know were chains disguised as freedom. I learned how to curse, how to summon, how to silence my conscience. The darkness became my identity. I called myself a warlock, and I wore that name with pride. Behind closed doors, I lived in shadows. Candles burning, books of spells open, symbols drawn in chalk. But behind the pride, there was fear. Every night, after the rituals were done, I would lie in bed with my heart racing, staring into the darkness, wondering if something was watching me. My life on the outside looked normal. I held a job, I had friends, I smiled in public. But my soul was corroding in secret. I had nightmares that felt too real. I heard whispers when no one was in the room. My health began to fail. Sharp pains in my chest, migraines that blinded me. And still, I told myself that I was in control. I told myself that God was nothing but a story to keep weak people afraid. But by 2006, something began to change. My rituals no longer brought me comfort. My body was breaking down, my mind was drowning in fear, and my soul felt empty. I would wake up in cold sweats, hearing screams that no one else could hear. The air around me felt heavy, suffocating, as if something evil had set camp in my home. One night, in the middle of a ritual, everything went wrong. My body collapsed, and I felt the strength drain from me as if my soul was being pulled out. My vision went black, and in that darkness, I realized I was no longer in my room. I had crossed a threshold I never thought I would see. I was being dragged somewhere I could not escape. And then, the gates of hell opened before me. When my vision went black that night, I thought I had simply fainted. But when I opened my eyes, I was no longer in my living room. The air was thick, suffocating, and carried a smell so foul it burned the inside of my nose. Sulfur, like rotten eggs mixed with burning tar. My chest heaved, but no breath filled my lungs. I looked down, and I could see my body lying still on the floor, motionless. That was the moment terror gripped me. I was outside myself. I felt hands, cold, claw-like hands, clutch my arms, pulling me downward into a darkness that seemed alive. The further I went, the heavier the air became, filled with screams that echoed endlessly. Some were cries of agony, others sounded like madness. My ears rang, but I could not shut out the noise. My skin prickled, as if invisible flames licked at me. And then I saw it. A massive gate, made of what looked like twisted black iron, stood before me. It was taller than any building I had ever seen, stretching into a sky that had no stars, only swirling shadows. Carved into the gates were faces, twisted, tormented faces, screaming silently as if trapped inside the metal itself. My stomach dropped. Every instinct in me screamed that I did not belong there, but the hands dragging me forward would not let go. As the gates creaked open, the heat hit me like a wall. I staggered as the stench of burning flesh choked me. On the other side, I saw rivers of fire flowing endlessly, with souls writhing in agony, their cries piercing deeper than any knife. Demons, grotesque, towering with eyes like coals and teeth jagged like broken glass, prowled around them, laughing, mocking, tearing at them without mercy. One of them turned its gaze toward me. My blood froze. It was as if it could see every secret I had ever tried to hide, every ritual, every curse, every arrogant word I had spoken against God. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like lead. The demon leaned closer, its voice hissing like boiling steam. You opened the gates. You belong here. That was when the truth struck me with unbearable force. Every ritual I performed, every incantation I spoke, every time I surrendered to darkness, I had been opening spiritual gates. Not just in my house, not just in my life, but in my very soul. I had invited them in. I had given them the keys. Terror clawed at me. I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the endless wails around me. The hands dragged me deeper past the gates, and I saw more horrors. Souls gnashing their teeth, begging for mercy, but no mercy came. I saw people I recognized from my past, faces of those who had died years ago, people who had laughed with me at churchgoers, people who had mocked the name of God. Their eyes locked on mine, filled with a hopelessness I cannot put into words. My knees buckled and I fell onto the burning ground. Flames seared me, but they did not consume me. The pain was unbearable, and yet it was only a glimpse of what was eternal there. I clutched my head, crying out in despair. For the first time in my life, I knew I was powerless. The pride that once made me feel strong was gone. All I had left was regret. But then, something happened. Through the screams and the torment, I heard a sound, a voice, not of terror, but of authority. It was calm, strong, and it cut through the chaos like thunder through a storm. This is not your time. I froze. The demons hissed and shrieked, pulling harder as if trying to keep me from turning toward the sound. But a light, faint at first, then brighter and brighter, broke into the darkness. It was not like the fire that burned there. It was pure, alive, and it pierced through me with both fear and peace at the same time. The voice came again, closer this time. Sally, I spared you for a reason. Go back and tell them, warn them of the gates they are opening. My mercy is not forever. In that moment, the claws lost their grip on me. The light surrounded me, wrapping me like a shield. The demons screamed in rage, clawing at the air, but they could not touch me. The ground beneath me gave way, and I felt myself being lifted upward, away from the gates, away from the flames, away from the suffocating despair. And then, with a gasp that burned my lungs, I opened my eyes. I was back in my living room, lying on the floor, drenched in sweat, the candles snuffed out beside me. My chest heaved as if I had run miles. Tears streamed down my face. I knew what I had seen was no dream. I had stepped through the gates of hell itself, and by the mercy of God, I had been pulled back. But that was only the beginning of my transformation. When I woke up on that floor in Vermont, gasping for air, I knew I had been given a second chance. But with that chance came a weight that nearly crushed me. The memory of what I had seen, the cries I had heard, the faces of people I once knew who were lost forever. Their screams did not leave my ears for weeks. At night, when I closed my eyes, I could still smell the sulfur, still feel the claws pulling at my skin. I knew without any doubt that I had been at the gates of hell. For days, I could not eat. My hands shook when I tried to sleep, but there was something else, something new, a stirring in my heart I had not felt in decades. Hope. I had heard his voice. I had felt his light, and I could not deny it anymore. God was real. His mercy had pulled me from a place where no mercy existed. I remember falling to my knees on the third night after the encounter, tears streaming down my face. My voice cracked as I whispered, "God, if you spared me, do not let me waste this life again. Take everything I have left." That was the night I truly surrendered. The transformation did not happen overnight. I had to break free from chains I had wrapped around myself for years. I burned the books of spells. I destroyed the symbols and tools I once used for rituals. I cut ties with people who still practiced witchcraft, even though they mocked me and said I had gone crazy. I started going back to church, not with pride this time, but with humility. Every sermon felt like it was piercing directly into my heart. Slowly, I felt life returning to me. My health improved. The migraines faded. The heaviness in my home lifted, and for the first time in years, I could sleep in peace. My family, who had once distanced themselves from me, began to notice the change. My mother, who had prayed for me all those years, held me one night and wept, saying, "I thought I lost you forever, but God has restored you." Today, my life is no longer about power, pride, or control. My life is about obedience. I share this story because I cannot stay silent. I have seen what waits beyond those gates, and I would not wish it on my worst enemy. The message I received in that place was clear. Spiritual gates are opened by our choices through sin, bitterness, witchcraft, unforgiveness, addictions. We open doors we do not realize are real. Hell is not just a story to scare children. Hell is real, and it is eternal. But I must also tell you this: heaven's mercy is just as real. The same God who reached into the flames to pull me out is the same God who can redeem anyone who calls on him. If you are living in sin, if you are playing with things you know are not of God, hear me clearly. There will be a price to pay. Do not wait until it is too late. I will leave you with these words that burned into my heart after that night. The gates you open in this life will meet you in the next. Choose carefully which gates you unlock. And another truth that has guided me ever since: hell shows no mercy, but God's mercy can rescue you even from its edge. So I speak to you now as a sister, as someone who has seen both sides. Repent. Take holiness seriously. Surrender before it is too late. Before we close, I want to ask you something. What do you think about my story? Do you believe that spiritual choices open unseen gates in our lives? And if you had one more chance to close a gate you may have opened, what would it be? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your heart. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps this message reach more people who desperately need to hear the truth. My prayer is that my testimony becomes a mirror for your own soul. May you choose life. May you choose light. And may you never forget that mercy is still available, but not forever.